welcome to HSBN. You are watching Christine Ellis, Dr. Christine Ellis here with you. And today I am having a friend with me. And it is imperative that you pay attention because there's something going on out there right now where people are talking about mental health. It's a buzzword, but for us who've been in that field for so many years, we know this thing's been around and now it's more prevalent and it definitely needs to be paid attention to. You are right now on the Holy Spirit Network with me, and you are watching me on my show, which is God Anoint Us Now to Enter the Divine. Here we are. Introduce yourself, my dear, because I don't like to introduce people. I don't want to mess up with their name. Neither do I want to call you Barbara, because I called you Barbara before, but it's not Barbara. But I thought maybe the Holy Spirit wanted me to call you Barbara. But you told me about this guy who's been calling you different names all the time. So go ahead and look at the camera. Introduce yourself to our audience, because we have a broad audience right now who's watching us. 50 million people in 187 different countries. So we would love for them to really pay attention to who you are.
Well, hello. My name is Deborah Cave. I'm a clinical Christian counselor, and I'm just happy to be here this morning.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. And the first thing that I would like to do, because we're going to do a couple of shows, and you get to hear her story right now, and then later we're going to really dive into why, Deborah, why you really went into that arena or devoted your whole life to it, because it's a life thing, right?
Absolutely.
The Word of God is very clear that our mind is a very important thing, because he says that those who have the mind of Christ, right? When you have the mind of Christ, you are centered, you are aligned, and your life is into alignment with things that are around you. When trauma comes, when different things come, you develop some coping skills to deal with them.
Yes.
But let's start basically with you as a person. Who are you, and what really brought you to this point where we can be sitting right here, right now, having this conversation?
Well, I said that the title of this would be God Interrupted Me, and
Yes.
I can say that God has interrupted me several times during my life in big
Yes.
ways, and my journey with mental health really started with my family. My mother suffers from bipolar, and my first memory of recognizing that this was happening in our life was when I was about 10.
Wow.
And
that's very young.
and my mom had a breakdown, and she left. She left the four of us kids at home.
Yeah.
And this was many years ago, so 40 years ago.
Wow.
I remember my grandmother came and picked us up, brought us to her house.
Yeah.
My mom went into the hospital. No one ever spoke about what was going on.
Wow.
It was a secret.
Silent.
It was a secret. After 3 months, my mom came home. She was addicted to narcotics at that point to help her with her mental illness.
Yeah.
And life kind of moved on. And so having a mother with mental illness was challenging for me.
challenging, yeah.
You talk about having coping skills. I definitely developed some coping skills. And one of the biggest ones was repressing my anger and my disappointment, and protecting myself and protecting my siblings. And so this was my life growing up through high school.
Were you the oldest one, or?
I'm the oldest girl. I have an older brother.
Older brother. So basically you kind of like took over the charge of taking care of everybody.
Yes.
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 Including mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mom left us when I was about 13.
Again.
And so I kind of took on that role of mothering. And so as I grew, I was not living a very moral life. We didn't have a lot of moral standards. In fact, we had no moral standards in our family growing up.
And so the guidance was not there.
There was nothing.
Yes,
there was nothing.
The teaching was not there.
There was nobody to tell me what was right and what was wrong.
Yes.
And so I just ended up doing everything wrong, I could say.
And when you are at a 13, you're old girl, right? 13 years old, and you're looking at the fact that you have nobody to go to, you have no guidance. So you're seeking for that love.
Yes.
You're seeking for that guidance. And needless to say, it's in all the wrong places. But at the same time, it just was a way for you to cope.
Yeah.
with what's going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I was definitely looking for, like you said, love in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
I got married young, had 2 beautiful children. That ended very poorly. I remember the day that I came to faith in Jesus. I was at the time not living a very moral life, I said again. And that morning I woke up and I said, let's go to church today. And
so you were already married, you had the 2 kids.
yes,
And then you divorced.
yes.
And then after the divorce, how old were you at that point with your children?
I was 25.
Wow.
The children were 1 and 2.
Yes.
And
then you just said, let's go to church today.
I said, let's go to church.
Out of the blue?
Well, things had been happening in my life leading up to that. You know how God brings people into your life,
Yep.
and they start
Different people are
speaking,
Yes.
planting seeds
Yes.
and speaking. And I had met some Christians that were just the most patient, loving, just putting up
Did
with.
you hear that, the word patient?
Patient.
Yes.
Patient and loving.
And loving.
Yes.
That's the way it should be. And when we show kindness and patience with people and just keep loving people where
Yes.
they are, because we don't know, that's the only thing they are asking at that moment. So you just found those friends found you.
Yes, they did, and I can still see their faces today. And so the morning I went to church, I walked in, and I remember this woman meeting me at the door, and and I'm not a hugger.
Yes.
I like my space around me, but she pulled me into a hug.
Oh my goodness.
And I just felt like I was home.
Wow.
And I can still see her face too. Her name was Fran, and she was our hugger in the church.
It is to be pointed out that the fact that you remember not only the hug, how she pulled you in and hugged you, but also you remember her name.
Yes.
You remember how you felt in that moment. It is very important for us as a church to recognize that. My pastor always talk about the fact that we are all in the business of having church. We are all part of what the dream team, whether it's from the front door to those who are taking your children in the back, to him preaching,
Yes.
and all, it's a dream team. We are all ministering that morning.
Yes.
We are all having church that morning.
Yes.
Doing church that morning.
Yes, and she felt like Jesus to me, even though I didn't know who she was or what was happening.
Yes, I love that.
So that morning, I sat in church, and I was scared. I didn't feel like I belonged there. And as we were worshiping, I felt everything around me, the sound around me, just kind of quieted and went away. And I felt God speak to me and say, I love you.
Wow.
And I forgive you.
Wow.
And I thought, no. Can't you see? Like, you can see me. Can you
Yes.
see me?
Yes.
And he said, yes, and I love you.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. I started weeping, and I felt like I wept for 3 months.
My goodness. That's an encounter.
It took me a long time to
That is an
receive
encounter.
his love and to
Yes.
receive his forgiveness and say, okay, I need to move forward from here.
Yes.
But the good news of Jesus and the good news of God's love for me was overwhelming. And it was what my heart had been craving all my life.
Yeah, and the part that really very interesting to many would be the fact that when you had an argument with God.
I did.
You
I
had
did.
an argument. So many people always have an argument.
Yeah.
Even myself, sometimes when he tells us something, and we argue with him, we don't understand why would you want to love someone like me?
Exactly.
And that's how you felt at that moment.
Yes.
So his love was beckoning you to come because he wanted you to be in a quiet place. He wanted you to be in a place where you could hear him.
I could hear him.
And then at that moment, he spoke. And when through your heart and through your mind, you felt it.
I did. I felt it, and it's been 30 years, and I can still feel that moment
That
where
first love.
That first
we talk
love.
about that first love all the time. And if you're in a position right now where you're not feeling that first love, just go quiet. Just go quiet for a little bit because he is still speaking.
Yes.
He is still speaking. That amazing. I just love the way that he interrupted you. you came in, you said yes, right? You went to church, and then right there and then, he took that opportunity to have someone give you a hug, pulled you in, and then when you sat there, the love of God just enveloped you,
Yes.
just like a blanket, just covered you. From that point, what happened?
My husband would say that I took off like a rocket. I spent the first 10 years of my walk with the Lord trying to pay him back.
No.
And I wish that someone had told me that I didn't need to do that, because I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot
Yes.
of just a lot of time at the church. And another point in my life where God interrupted me again was
Yes.
when we moved to Arizona from Florida.
Okay. Oh, so you're from the sea.
I am from Florida, yes. So I remember we had moved, and my kids had gone to school, my husband had gone to work, and I was at home, and I was starting over. And I remember a point in time where I was sitting at my table, and I was reading the Word, and I just felt like, God, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more
Yes.
than what I have done for the last 10 years. And I was really at a pivot point in my life where I was either going to believe that God was real,
Yes.
or that what I had been doing for the last 10 years was for nothing.
Yep.
And so in that moment, God met me again in a very intimate and real way, and he showed me for the first time what the word grace means.
Wow.
And he
And
said,
what does it mean to you?
Oh.
Because somebody needs to hear that right now. What does the word grace, God show you what that word means? What does it mean?
for me, it meant all of those things that you did for me, all of the time that you spent, were not things that I asked you to do. Those were things that you did in response to my love for you.
Yes.
I never asked you to do those things. And he said, if you never did one more thing for me the rest of your life, my love for you would not be any greater than it is right now.
Well, somebody needs to hear that.
And in that moment, I thought, that is God's grace. That is his unmerited favor
Yes.
towards me, his love towards me, and I could do nothing to earn it or deserve it.
You know, we hear his word that says that, you know, faith without work is dead, and all these kinds of things. And it's important for us to work. But the work is not what he's seeking after.
Right.
What he's seeking after is our heart and our relationship with him, and the fact that we accept the love that he freely gives to us.
Yes.
This is amazing.
It was definitely another turning point in my life. I've had several of those big God moments. After that encounter, we started going to a church, a local church, and my husband and I decided to take a few years off just to refresh and just to let the Lord speak to us and move forward. Because after I realized what grace was, I decided I needed to be very specific and prayerful about where God was leading me and what he was leading me to do. And so for the first 2 or 3 years we lived in this town, I worked for the Pregnancy Care Center. And I
wonderful organization.
Yes, it was. It was a great ministry to be involved in. Very God-centered, and I realized that there was some healing there that I needed to do for myself.
Wow.
And so again, God brought me to that place, and then shortly after that, I ended up being on staff there at our church, which I loved.
Yes.
I loved serving the Lord.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I was about 5 years in, and again, I was at that point where I was exhausted. I was physically exhausted, spiritually exhausted, and again, the Lord interrupted me, and I started to have some health issues.
He wanted you to pay attention.
He needs to do those things to me to get my attention. He needs to interrupt me.
He works with you.
He does. He needs to interrupt me in a big way. And so again, I was at that point where I was doing too much. I wasn't being prayerful and specific about the things I said yes to.
Yes.
And so you can get so wrapped up in church, in church life. It's so hard to say no. But you have to. You have to, and God needs you to say no.
He needs you to be able to balance things.
Right.
As a counselor, you understand now what it means by having a balanced life.
Yes.
So we have to be able to balance.
Yes. So I resigned from full-time ministry. We moved down here to the Valley, and within a few weeks, I was already feeling a little antsy about not
doer,
serving.
The doer in her.
Oh.
Because you are hands and feet, right? You're all about the hands and feet. You have to keep moving.
I just felt like I was dying. So
Yes.
my husband said, you can go down to the church and find out what's going on there, maybe volunteer a little bit here and there.
Yes.
Within a year, I was on staff again.
She is.
There I was. And but in this season in my life, I had transitioned from the health issues I was going through.
Yeah.
I had told God and told my husband that I would include both of them in my decisions going forward, and that made all the difference for me.
Yes, it did.
Letting my husband speak into my life and letting him protect me.
Right.
Also, allowing the Lord to say, yes, I want you to do that. No, don't get involved there.
That voice that's directing you.
Yeah.
He said, my sheep knows my voice.
So now I'm 20 years in,
Yes.
and I'm just starting to get it.
Oh my goodness.
Just starting to
You
get
hear
it.
that? So if you just started, don't get frustrated.
Oh.
Because it's the process, right?
Yes.
There's a process. God is taking us through a process of understanding who we are. Because
Yeah.
He is rubbing it up, right? He's taking care of things. He's making it perfect. He's turning it around. He's changing things around for a purpose.
Yes.
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 So I was right in the midst of the ministry again. I had just gotten back from a mission trip to Lebanon, which was a devastating trip for me. When I got back, God interrupted me again. I found out that I had breast cancer.
Wow.
And so I just thought, not me, not me.
Come on.
I'm doing your work, Lord. What's
come on.
happening here?
Can you talk to somebody right now who just have a diagnosis of that and who is in the midst? I mean, they're doing everything for the Lord right now.
Yeah.
Can you?
Early on in my diagnosis and early on in the processing of everything that was happening, God said to my heart specifically, this is not about you.
Come on.
This is not about you. This is your journey, but this is for the people that you will encounter along the way, but also after. It's going to be part of your testimony, part of your journey. And so I love that He did that for me early on, because then it had purpose.
Yes. And the strength.
Yes.
And knowing that He was in it with you, and then you were going to see the result that He had spoken of. And then your faith rose up, right?
Yes.
Your faith rose up. And so this is what we have to do. Well, you went on a word from God. And whenever you get one of those diagnoses where you don't know which way to go, and God, things started to interrupt you, and God had to allow it, right, for you to be interrupted like that. So be assured that He's going to give you a word. Be assured that He's to pay attention, because He's going to tell you. For one of my friends, he said, get up and live. I have a friend, both him and his wife, that's their word, get up and live. And so they are living, they are doing things, they are out there enjoying into the process. And you could see from the day of getting chemo to a couple of days later, I mean, the light that is shining out of her and all kinds of things. Get up and live. That's her word. And so God told you it was not about you.
It wasn't about me.
It was a journey. And so let's go through the process.
Yes. So one of the first things I did was I started a Facebook group. I felt like I needed to protect myself a little bit from everyone's horror stories.
Yes.
You know how when you hear,
Yes.
when you're going through something, everyone wants to tell you their experience. And so I knew for me this was a personal experience between me and God, and I needed to have that group of people around me and my prayer group around me that was going to lift me up and encourage me. And the days that I was struggling, speak some words of encouragement to me. So I started a Facebook group. I invited my group in, my family in, and the name of it was God Interrupted Me.
God Interrupted Me.
And so I journeyed I just wrote down my journey through the last year.
Through your journals, and you journal about it, and all kinds of things, the stories.
And the people that it was touching, and the people that heard about it and wanted to be invited into the journey with me. God used it in the most amazing ways.
My goodness. And people started to really find their healing process into the whole idea. So it truly was not about you.
It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me.
It was God doing a work.
I learned another thing about God during this time, and that is that when you're in a place where you can't lift up to him. I felt like there were some days where I couldn't even pray. I felt like there were some days where I couldn't even read the word, and it wasn't getting into me. And I felt like I had all this time in quarantine. I should have been diving into the word and been in prayer and been on my knees. And I just was paralyzed.
Wow.
And I remember one day God came to me and he said, you don't have to come up to me. Let me come down to you.
Come on now.
Let me come down
Isn't
to
it
you.
just like our God?
And let me hold you. And let me hold you where you are. And I know where you're at. And I'm here with you.
I hope that you know that the Holy Spirit is in the midst of this right now, and that He is in the studio. We can feel the tangible Holy Spirit. His Spirit is right here with us right now, talking about God saying that don't try to come up to me.
Yeah.
Don't try to reach out. I'm already here.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm coming down. He did that with Jesus.
Yeah.
He says that He sent His word, and the word was made flesh and lived among us. And then He sent His word, and His word can heal us. And so the word, it's Jesus.
Yeah.
He has given. So He came. He said, don't go up. Let me come down.
Yeah.
And at that moment, what happened?
I feel like I always equate God to a diamond with thousands of facets,
Yes, He
right?
is.
And so He showed me in that moment one beautiful, deep facet of Him that I never would have been able to see or understand if I hadn't gone through what I'd gone
you
through.
went Wow, wow. So in that whole process, so interruption after interruption after interruption, but every one of them, one thing that is the common denominator to me as I'm hearing your story, and you are probably, who are listening also, is hearing this, is that God was always there.
He was always there.
So He will be there for you too. That's a fact, right?
Yes.
That's a fact, because interruption after interruption, when you paid attention, you understood that He was with you, and you keep going back to Him rather than running away from Him. So if you're going through something right now, don't feel that you have to run away from God, but feel that that He can come to you. You can even stay right here, right now, in this moment, right this moment. And we're inviting you into this circle right now, like that Facebook that you did. This moment, this show it's something similar to this, where we're inviting you to come in. Just find yourself right now with us and lay it down, because He says that my burden is light,
Yes.
and my yoke is easy. Just lay it down. If there is something that you will want to do as a counselor right now to encourage someone who's hearing your story of being interrupted, because we're going to go in deeper and deeper in the next show. But right now, can you encourage someone for the last 3 minutes about what they're going through right now? How can they continue to stay steadfast?
So a big thing that I have learned is that people that have experienced trauma, and we've all experienced trauma, grief, and loss in some form,
Yes.
Your trauma, your pain, your suffering has purpose. There's purpose in it. God has a purpose in it. And that's what you need to find out. Don't waste your season of trial. Don't waste your season of suffering, because God has a reason for it. And it probably goes beyond you. There's always an upper story. And then as part of your journey, your pain and suffering is part of your journey, when you can come to a place of empathy for your past, for your trauma, for your pain, then you can start to the road of healing.
Wow.
And recovery.
That is so amazing. You said a word that is very important. People might want to know, what does word mean? What does it mean? Can you describe what that word means?
Empathy?
Empathy. What does it mean?
Empathy means that you can get right in there with the feelings and you can feel the pain, and you can take on the role of whoever you are having empathy for.
Correct.
Jesus has empathy for us. He
Yes.
can feel our pain. He knows our struggle. He knows our emotion.
Absolutely.
He is the author of empathy. And if you can find out what that word means for you and be able to relate that to your past pain and your trial and your suffering, and be able to go into those moments and say, there's purpose there.
Yes.
I see what you were doing, God. I'm on the other side of it, and I can see what you were doing. And you just begin to trust Him in a way you never have.
Yeah. So we always say charity begins at home. And so the empathy for yourself, when you say go back and have an opportunity to look into that, and then start looking at yourself and give yourself that permission to say that I went through all of this and I still survive it. I had to know a God who pulled me through.
Yes.
I had to really be a perseverant kind of person, someone who will not let go. And so start speaking those words over your life.
Yes.
That how strong you are, how worthy you are of the love of God.
Yes.
No matter what the enemy is saying in your ears, and you keep saying that to yourself, that this is not about me, there's a purpose into that. And then once you are so strong and established into that empathy for you, then now you can transfer it over to someone else. And that's what you did with that Facebook. When people started to ask to be included, then you started to bring them in. And then they started to find a way now to tell a story of redemption, a story of restoration, a story that will take you to the next journey of your life, which is now I can go back to school to really empower myself to truly help others.
Yes.
Stay tuned with us. The next show is going to come out. But I wouldn't want to live this moment without inviting you to join us into this show as part of this platform, where you can actually write in, get in touch with Miss Cave to literally ask a question, and I know you're willing to help others. You're willing to work with her. Her information, her ministry, her page, all her information is on the screen, so you will be able to get in touch with her. Please do that, because it is important. We are not doing this thing alone.
Absolutely.
God is with us, and we have each other. So it's this way and that way. I am so glad that you're here today, because we're helping a lot of people out here right now to understand that the pain has a purpose. Don't waste it. And then now, know that God, those things are interruption. But if you take the time, God will bring it back into alignment.
Yes.
And then together, we can continue to be stronger and move forward with Him along.
Absolutely.
Always with us doing this. I thank you for joining. Thank you. Please reach out to us on HSBN. We love you. We will be praying for you always. God bless you.
The preceding program was brought to you by the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network, HSBN Television.